In life, there's two types of people. There's the people that own the store, and there's the people that scrape the shit off the floor. And you have to decide, which one are you? I'm not saying it's bad to be an employee. Whatever she says I have to do, I'm not going to live my life that way.
The way I look at it is the reason that people pursue entrepreneurship is not about the greed of money, it's about the pursuit of personal freedom. Everybody in this room wants to be successful, and in entrepreneurship, the way to define success is you make money. And then eventually there comes a time in your life when you wake up and you say, shit, I'm rich. I never saw it coming. Yeah. And I could do whatever I want. And most of the time what people do is work even harder because they like what they do. That's what entrepreneurship's about. It's setting yourself free to spend your time, your day in the things that you want to do. And the great part about it is nobody can tell you what that is. It's only you. That's the whole deal right there.
You should save 10% of what you're going to make. If you're making $5,000, it's $500. And invest it in a basket of stocks like an ETF. There's so many conservative ETFs out there. I like dividend-paying conservative ETFs. I'm not going to recommend a ticker. But the concept of just using a single ETF that maybe have 20, 30, 50 stocks in it is the best way to do it. And then consistently maintain putting into this every month or 2 months or whenever you can, the 10% of your salary. If you do that and you even only have the average salary of $52,000 and you do it until you're 65, you'll end up with a couple of $1 million in the bank. That's the greatest strategy. The fact that you're thinking about it is fantastic. Good luck to you, and stay focused on saving and investing. Stocks are terrific over a long period of time. Yes, there is volatility, but you'll be buying some when the stocks go down. You'll be buying some as they go up. Over the long period of time, you're going to make 6 or 7%. That's what the market has provided over the last 50 years.
You are going to meet people in your life you do not like. They may not like you. Doesn't matter. The point is, in work, you're achieving results towards a goal. Now, you don't have to love everybody you work with. It's a nice bonus, but it's not going to happen. So you've got to kind of realize they are stepping stones in your career. They are stepping stones if you're an entrepreneur. They're points of resistance. They're roadblocks. They're pitfalls. They're bumps. They're whatever you want to call them. But you've got to achieve success. You've got to get over them. You've got to work with them, and you're going to move on. If you dwell on those, if they eat at you and they take away from your focus, then you're losing. And that's something you have to learn. You have to learn to deal with the noise, people that don't like you, people that hassle you, people you don't like, but that has nothing to do with achieving the objective, whatever that is.
Let me be clear about cash flow. It's the only thing I care about, okay? Because there is no business without cash flow. You might be able to last for a couple of years borrowing money, getting more investors, but if you don't have cash flow, you're going to zero. It's that simple. And I think you have to face that reality as an entrepreneur. Cash flow is the blood of business. If you don't have any blood, you're dead. What about this? What about that? And I say, whatever you're talking about is irrelevant if you don't have cash flow.
So think about that. You also learn things along the way that do not seem important while you're learning them, but years later end up being a really big deal. Let me explain one that happened to me. And you could be learning something today that you're just storing away and is going to be very, very important to you down the road, which is why it's really important in life to shut up and listen. You should listen 2/3 of the day and talk 1/3. You learn a lot more, you become more powerful. Here's an example. Got a job at a company called Nabisco Brands, okay? They have a pet food division, Miss Mew cat food. I get the job there working for a Dutch product manager, very cool guy. First day on the job, takes me to the rendering plant where they make the basic pastes that you make cat food with. Either you make it with Sea of Japan tuna, the dark meat, or you make it with beef rendering and chicken faces. And then you add, for example, this is good, I'm here, you take little celery bits, for example, and you add it to the paste. So let's say you're putting celery with Sea of Japan tuna, and you call that tuna casserole. And maybe you call it tuna Mediterranean salad, whatever it is, bits of other stuff, but it's basically the paste. You have two things. You got the Sea of Japan tuna, you got the chicken faces, the beef renderings. They make up everything. Years later, now we're in software. We're at the Learning Company. We're at Boston. We're the world's largest educational software company. We spend millions on R&D. But basically in education, in our school system, there's 110,000 schools. We sold to the school systems too. And what parents wanted, what teachers wanted, and what students ultimately needed was to advance their reading and math scores. Reading, math, see Japan tuna, chicken faces? All of a sudden, I'm sitting at lunch and I'm talking to the guys and we're thinking about next year and the millions we're going to spend on R&D. I said, guys, let me tell you this story about cat food. I said, if we're really just doing reading and math titles and throwing in bacon bits in the form of another character, Big Bird or Rita Rabbit or Carmen Sandiego or Mavis Speak and Teaches Typing, whatever it is, it's just a character. But the basic code is reading and math. Why don't we consolidate down to 2 engines, save millions in R&D, just have 2 teams and some graphic artists that put in the characters on top. The kids don't care. They're 4 to 7 years old. We saved millions that next year, where our cost of capital went way down and we acquired all our competitors. Where'd that come from? That was the lesson the Dutch guy taught me in the cat food business. My whole point is, you don't know when you're learning a lesson, so shut up and listen. I guess they call it experience, but I'll never forget that story. Absolutely incredible.
Your emotions can be your best friend, but also your worst enemy, because when you make irrational decisions that are based on sheer emotion, you're often making the wrong decision. You have to understand them, and I find the best way to do it is don't be impulsive. I get pissed off too. I get angry. I get elation. I get all of those things too. But what I've learned over time is not to make decisions under the influence of any of those emotions. Just delay the decision until you can be rational, maybe sleep on it, get up in the morning, have a coffee and think about it, and if you're not comfortable yet, don't make the decision. There's always the option to do nothing for a while. And the only way you're going to learn that's through experience. All the decisions I made under heavy duress or emotional stress have cost me a fortune. Big mistakes. And also, revenge is a stupid emotion. It makes you do stupid things. Be rational about it. Doesn't mean you can't, be pragmatic, but being motivated by hatred or fear or anything like that is never a good outcome. In life, shit happens. You got to deal with it, but you have to do it rationally and pragmatically. Don't get caught up in emotion. Simply wait it out.
Well, let me give you some data which you may find interesting, because I've been doing this for almost 20 years now. The majority has come from companies run by women. Now, I'm not trying to start gender warfare here. I'd give money to a goat if I could get a return. I don't care. But remember, these are multiple sectors. I'm talking about insecticide companies, gym equipment companies, commercial kitchens. We have a wireless charging company. They're all different. And yet the outcomes, women are better. Why? So we did some research. And what we discovered was, rather interestingly, if you look at women-run companies and you look at, because we have all the data, what did they forecast for sales in a quarter? What did they achieve? And then look at the ones run by men. In the case of women, they achieve their goals quarterly 90% of the time, okay? 90. In the case of ones run by men, 65% of the time. Wow. But the men had sales targets 30% higher. So they were really doing what I call the testosterone stretch, really saying, let's go for it, and only hitting it 65% of the time. Now, why would that manifest itself in a difference in cash flow? You got to ask that question, right? Here's why. In a company where the whole team consistently hits goals, the culture becomes very sticky, and nobody wants to leave. There's no staff turnover, there's no disruption in revenue, there's no disruption in accounting, compliance. The team is stuck together. And the ones where they only hit their target 65% of the time, there's a lot of unhappiness and angst, particularly in the sales force. And their staff turnover is much higher. So when we put this new policy in place, you set targets that you hit. We did this 3 years ago now with all the companies. I don't care if there's no growth in your target, but if you hit the target, we started to see lower turnover. And now in the companies that were not doing well, cash flow is up 18%. That's something you should, if it's the only thing you remember today when I'm talking about, set goals you can achieve and watch things happen.